My name is Joni Ferns and I'm Chief Operating Officer at Police Now, which is a social enterprise that recruits and trains diverse graduates to become police officers. When I worked at PwC, I worked on a number of operating model and transformation projects with big government departments. One of the bodies that I did work with was Metropolitan Police at the time, so that was my first kind of look into policing. My talk is about the power that individuals have to make real impact and genuine impact on society and the planet and the people around them in the workplace. My journey has definitely influenced the idea for the talk, and I think that's because growing up I saw a lot of injustice. The one idea I would like the audience to take away is that you as an individual and your choices matter.
I was invited to an interview a few years ago for a non-executive director board position at a great organisation. How exciting, I thought, to be considered at this level for the first time in my career. So I go to the interview and I meet the panel. I'm nervous. I know it will be competitive and there will be people with far more years' experience. But I think that I do okay. And I'm pretty proud of how I've presented myself. And I think, well, whatever happens, I'll have gained a lot from the experience. After freshening up and having a lovely chat to one of the other candidates, I go back to the holding room to collect my things. But before I leave, I hear my name mentioned by members of the panel who clearly don't realise that I'm still there. Well, Joni ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't she? She ticks the ethnic minority box, the female box, and the social mobility box. Definitely good for our social responsibility review. Crushed. I was absolutely crushed. And in that moment, I just wanted to crawl into a hole in the ground and disappear. Inconveniently, there were no holes in the ground available. So instead, I went to the bathroom where I had a big cry, you know, one of those ones that you just can't seem to get under control. And later on, I questioned why I'd had such a strong reaction. No one was nasty to me, and people have gone through a lot worse in interviews. But deep down, I knew why. All of my capabilities and the barriers I have had to tear down meant absolutely nothing to these people and were completely diminished by 3 tick boxes on a form. And despite rationally knowing that they were wrong, to this day, I still have insecurity about why anyone wants to work with me because of that experience. So I finally started realising that some people were focused more on tick box exercises than real change. In the days that followed, I started to really scrutinise and question my interactions with organisations and leaders and how they talked about their impact on people and the planet. Now, this, as you all know, is a big trend at the moment, a broadly positive one, where organisations are considering their environmental, social and governance outcomes, also known as ESG, or commonly referred to as impact. Perspectives on this trend have changed in the last few years for a few different groups. Businesses and leaders, to a greater or lesser extent, are trying to demonstrate their impact. I work with a number of different organisations regarding their impact strategies, and many of them have signed up to accreditations and measurement frameworks for ESG, like GRI, CDP, SASB, IRRC, ISSB, TFCFD, UN SDGs, or B Corp. Apparently you have to have a gnarly acronym to qualify as one of those. And it's likely that some form of universal standard will be mandated in the coming years. So it's really on their radar. Investors are also interested. I have a friend who manages a venture capital fund that focuses on impact, and she says that she's never seen an impact market like it. In fact, the UK impact investing market has grown to over £58 billion. Lastly, consumers are making much more socially conscious purchasing decisions, often choosing brands based on their sustainability or ethical practices. However, nearly 50% of consumers either do not trust or are sceptical of businesses' claims regarding impact. That means they're worried about impact washing, and that impacts their loyalty. You've all heard the media stories. Well-known institutions describing their transition to net zero, was failing to disclose their financing of high emissions industries, or organisations exaggerating their social impact and then getting found out. Even good friends of mine are striving to seek and measure impact when there is no obvious intent or connection. And the problem is, they've all gotten caught up in the impact game. So, I posit a hypothesis. Could the ESG impact trend be one of the most successful deceptions in business history? It's hard to unsee it once you really think about it. How many of you have ever felt pressured into measuring your environmental or social impact retrospectively? How many of you, with all good intentions, have taken part in impact investing without really knowing what or who you're investing in? How many of you have inadvertently treated your workforce as statistics rather than human beings? I know that I have. Okay, I can see that some of you might be experiencing some form of introspective crisis. Don't panic. I'm simply trying to make you think about how common it is for us and the people that we work with to feel pressured to prove and therefore stretch what can reasonably be characterised as positive impact. I'm really lucky to work in the social impact sector, and I work for an organisation that is trying to reduce crime and increase public confidence through the work we do in the criminal justice system. And part of my team's remit is demonstrating our impact through robust qualitative and quantitative measurement, as well as storytelling of real impact cases in communities. In my line of work, there is a public crisis in confidence and legitimacy, so authenticity is absolutely key. And that issue of trust and public perception is becoming more and more pervasive in every industry, especially when organisations are talking about ESG. So what can you do to build trust in the impact space? The good news is, quite a lot. Everyone here has influence. Some of you here will go on to have huge influence. So the potential impact of this group is a catalytic opportunity. And that means I'm going to ask something of you. 2 things, in fact, to do differently after today. The first is to challenge. Challenge what you're seeing and hearing, and don't be afraid to ask questions so you can understand what is real. A wonderful micro example of this is when I used to work for an organisation that won an external award for inclusive practices, particularly in how it supported women in the workplace. But a discerning colleague of mine realised that women were still poorly represented in senior leadership team positions, and then found out that a lot of women, and some men, were resigning because the company only provided statutory maternity and paternity pay. A travesty in this day and age, but it still exists. So we surveyed the staff, we presented the findings to the CEO, and now the company has improved parental provision, retains more talent, and has built better trust with its staff. Now, that sort of change doesn't always happen, but if you challenge in the right way, it might. So challenge when you're not confident in what you're seeing, and you might improve things for people around you and help your organisation to succeed. My second ask is to act with both intent and integrity when it comes to impact measurement. Instead of retrospectively measuring your environmental or social impact, or creating bolt-on projects to meet shareholder or public expectations, embed your impact goals into your strategy and into your day-to-day. And then be transparent about what you've measured. Where I work, impact analyses are often inconclusive, or sometimes we just get it wrong, but that's part of the process. Sometimes we find indicative correlations, but perhaps not strong enough to make big claims about them. Every now and then, we hit the jackpot, we get it externally verified, and we shout about it, and couple it with the most powerful tool that we have, real impact stories from real people. So have intent and integrity when it comes to impact, and you'll build stronger trust with your stakeholders and your customers. We are at a pivotal moment in time, an exciting time, where the conversations about impact are increasing and there's significant appetite from businesses, investors and consumers. But There has never been more danger of window dressing and making us feel like we're making a difference when we're not. So challenge. Have intent and have integrity and be part of the solution in your organisation and in society. I've asked a lot of questions of you tonight. Here's my final one. What's your impact story going to be?